Good morning. My name is Fran Davin. I've been a member of this congregation this year for 30 years. It's a great celebration. I feel so good to have a 30-year home to come to every week. Only one of my family is here locally, so this is my family. And it's a great feeling to come here on Sunday mornings. And I hope you all feel the same. Our welcome this morning was written by a lady from Boston, Marilyn Falowski, and she says to you, whoever you are, welcome. We welcome you and hope that you come here with high hopes yourself. We know you come from different reasons, to find community, to seek your spiritual and personal truth, to question, to nurture your heart and soul, to be nurtured, to explore new ideas.
Good morning. I'm dressed for battle. This is a traditional pulpit robe for a Unitarian Universalist minister, or mostly any Protestant minister. They came in the 1600s when the Reformation came about, that the priesthood, with all of its embellishments, had to have something opposed to it by the Protestants. And they started out with a simple black academic robe, which is the base under this. And some of them had panels of velveteen over the silk, and some of them had just plain silk. Well, as the church moved from its radical Protestantism with the Lutherans and then the Episcopalians and some others thrown in there, it became a little bit more ornamented with the colors. So today, if you look up on Google, Unitarian Universalist congregations, sermons and services, you'll see a whole kind of range of robes and dashikis and a little bit of everything. So next week I'll have a surprise for you that's a little different. We light our chalice in honor of the freedom that brings us here, that allows us to be here. The freedom to search for truths that apply to our lives, to look at our spiritual resources, to consider others, to be in a time of renewal and rediscovery of our humanity and those forces in our lives that gives us inspiration. We're not going to talk about God here necessarily, but we're not going to not talk about God. We're going to look into the words and the ideas of other people and share some of the testimonies of the stories that come to us about the spiritual giants who've been humans. We're not talking about magic here. We're talking about reason. So may the light be shining on you today, and as you take the light after we leave the service into your walk of life, may you bless others with the light of hope and love. Thank you all. It's very important for us to remember that we're a voluntary organization. There's no organization above us or around us that supplies the funds for our life. It's the work, the inspiration, the creativity of you folks that make it work. So we need to keep that in mind and thank ourselves from time to time. I need to finish my tour of my apparel this morning because I didn't finish it. So how many of you have been to graduations at University of South Florida? Hold up your hand. How many of you take notes of the gowns that the professors wear? Have you noticed the different colors they have? Here is a color usually representing the discipline that person might be. History, physics, psychology, different ones have been designated different colors. So for theology or divinity or religion, the scarlet is the color. Originally, they were just black, because you were taking on the role on Sunday morning as a Protestant minister of bringing and deciphering the Word. You were a teaching model and also a rabbi model that was just bringing the stories of the spiritual tradition that was shared by the congregation to light on a Sunday morning for graduation, for celebration, or Saturday morning, or whatever day was designated as a Sabbath. The bars here came along later. Used to be, it was just solid black, and it was called the Masters of Divinity, which means you had a Bachelor of Divinity, which means you had 3 more years above undergraduate. You had a total of 8 years to get a bachelor's degree. Well, they decided their egos got a little tender around that because all these lawyers and these other people were getting same kind of education, same type of length of education, so that they decided that we would start marking us. So 3 bars represent a doctorate degree in the field of theology or ministry or religion. So that finishes my story. So we're coming on Thanksgiving. Thanksgiving, as I've said for many years, is my favorite native ceremony. And I say native very cautiously because it's not about Native Americans necessarily, but it's the first people that lived beyond a family into a larger nuclear family. And when, in the northern hemisphere, when the seasons got cold, the crops, whatever they might have been, corn, maize, fruit trees, started yielding. You had a stockpile and a storage house for winter, because the days get short and the nights get long. And the temperatures from the equator north gradually get much colder. Well, if you remember your geography and history, when you look at the population belt, it's right around the center of the globe. So there are lots of people who have determination who they are, but where they're located. And I would say to you that anyone who understands history or sociology or even theology needs to know about location of the people you're talking about and or the seasons, the years, the decades, the centuries. Apples were first discovered as a fruit that was developed 8,000 years ago. Maize goes back much, much, much further. Apples came from the Central Europe. Seedlings and seeds got on the Silk Road and got to Northern Europe, eventually got to America. We have stories about Johnny Appleseed. Johnny Appleseed was real. He's a Swedenborgian minister, and he was on a mission for God, as the Blues Brothers would say. And he was going across the northern Midwest, giving seeds, telling people how to plant seeds, planting apple trees, showing them how to graft them, showing how to produce a stable, wonderful crop anywhere in a temperate zone. Maize would go back to South America, of course, and Middle America, from the small, little, gnarly corn cobs or corn blobs that became the wonderful hybrids that we have today with the long pictures of the beautiful corn. Well, the first corn was every color possible, and it was from the Andes and from the Central America that they came forth. So Thanksgiving is not about just a bunch of civilizers taking over another country. I sort of resent that. And I thought a lot of people who are honest about their religion and honest about their history know too. It has been a struggle for humanity of the strong over the weak. And the measure of society, the religious, cultural, moral code of a country, a nation, is how the winners treat the losers. Because if we're more than animals, we have to find some way to deal with our reptile mind. The great teachers of human history who said you're more than your appetite, you're more than your lust, you're more than your ego. Those folks have said there's a third way. It's not over. It's not over, power over. It's power with. It's not just being strong. It's being compassionate and merciful. Well, that's silly, Doak. The winners always call the tune. Yeah? Yeah. And they're always looking behind them to see who's coming behind them, who's going to take over next. Because power over never sustains itself. It must be changed. And people will go for life and freedom and possibility rather than submission. Now, we're going into a culture now, and we've been going into it since World War II, I would say, of the stronger getting stronger and the richer getting richer. And it's really a hoot for me or any of us to talk about that in the first world that we live in, because we are the owners. Oh, we're not really the owners. We work for the owners. We're employed by the owners. Because that 1 or 2% that the politicians talk about, if we know anything about economics, about social history, you know that's true. So we've been living in a world dominated by a story that I don't buy, that Unitarian Universalists don't buy necessarily. And that is that the winner calls the tunes. The tune is in the living of life. The words you set to that tune are the truths that you prescribe to it, not the truth. The truth is life requires life to live. There's got to be an interaction and an interdependency and an inner relationship that sustains our earth, sustains our family life, sustains our possibilities. How many of you have not eaten an apple? How many of you have not eaten cornbread? See, the point of the cornbread and cider communion that we have come up in our churches and many other churches is just a domestic celebration in the fall to celebrate the meaning of the system, of the seasons. Harvest time, winter coming, the new year for the pagan, for the earth religions. Coming around to springtime when it all starts again with the new crops and new plantings. See, the cycles of the sun and the cycles of the moon mark our lives. Of course they mark our lives. That's how our calendars and our time is measured. So what do we do with that, with being a thinking, feeling, caring person? We need to party. We need to celebrate. We need not to tell stories about morbid giants taking over from little people. We're not here to talk about the great triumphs of the discoverers of America. They didn't discover America, they were lost. There were people here. There were people everywhere. And rather than acclimate, rather than become part of it, rather than being equal among equals, we have to dominate. Same in Britain. The French came over and took over from the Saxons. We get Robin Hood myths. We get Native American myths of Squanto, the great chief, the great teacher and instructor of the New England discoverers, pioneers, the Pilgrims. He knew English. How do you know English? Well, he got trapped, took across the ocean on a ship, and then he got come back. And when the Pilgrims came up to meet him and greet him, he came up to them, talked in English, and welcomed them to the Americas. Now, can you imagine breaking into a man's house, sort of ready to take all his stuff, and he comes out the side door and says, "Hey, welcome, what's up?" That doesn't compute. That doesn't compute. So the sensible, the practical, is that the winners win and the losers lose. No. That's a temporary flow of power. That's a temporary shifting of responsibilities. That's a change that has to occur. People have to exert their own power in order to have their own power. People have to exert their own power to have their own power. And that means being the best person you could be and understand you've got flaws. You don't think there aren't rotten apples? You don't think there's bad corn? Talk to any farmer. Discrimination, determination, discernment is sorting out what's good. What is good? What is good? You do to me like I want to be done. And I do to you like I want to be done. It's sort of elementary. It's sort of how life is built. So what's the motivation for all this power mongering? What's the motivation for all this power over rather than power with? My theory is that we're scared of death. We're scared of transition. We're scared of not having what we have right now in this moment in this room, which is breath, family, consciousness. Wonderful. So you get some snake oil salesmen coming through and they're going to promise you paradise. Oh, they mean well. They do really care about you, I think. Most of them do. Just watch your pocketbook, make sure that you're not writing checks to them unless you know what they're doing with your checks. Whether it's blessing the world and taking off a little bit to help the blessers get it done. The wonder of life is the opportunity to grow a soul, to be a part of the divinity that we all are, to bust out of the shell, bust out of the ego, bust out beyond our instincts and create a spiritual awareness and a spiritual consciousness that guides and directs our ethics. Do what you need to be done, what you would want done to yourself with all you come by. That has to moderate every action, every behavior we have. Those who have more, they got a little bit more to be conscious of, don't they? Those who have less, they not need to rest on their laurels, as my daddy would say. They got to do the best they can for themselves. And we're not given life just to lay around, because it won't be life. It'll be death pretty soon. But we've got to take each other's hands and say, we're going to do this together. We're going to figure out ways to be creative in the gifts we've got. We're going to preserve the best gifts we can, and we get an opportunity to be a true human being. So this is what I want us to do. We're going to do our communion now. And this is an experiment, and if y'all mess up the floor, I'm going to mess up you. No. That was too severe. We have apple juice, cider, and we have homemade corn muffins from Miss Kathy Reedy. And we're going to start. Yeah, we'll give her a hand. I have to tell Kathy this. Is she still here? Where is she? Oh, I have to tell you this. I figured you would do the same thing I did and look up buying commercial cornbread sticks and be frustrated with them. And I didn't have the cake pans, so I thought you would probably take care of that. And she did, so we got some fresh, real ones. So, Janine, you guys start, and y'all come and go get one of each, go back to your seat, work around that way. And then y'all also do the same thing. We're just going to make a circuit around the room. Okay? Can we do that, Janine? And our maestro, where'd our maestro go? Brother James, could you provide a little bit of music for this? Tinkle the ivories, old boy. Play a little music here of your choosing. To dedicate our communion, I have a prayer that I wrote for this event. Now, the idea of mocking the communion of the Christians is farthest from my mind because I came up through the Methodist Church. But communion is a recognition and a contrived ritual for folks to say we're family. Those of you who grew up around a family table at holidays, mostly Thanksgiving, we remember them. and many of you are going to be forced to go to them probably. The symbolism is pure. It's like we bring things together to eat together because we're a gift to one another. I hope we have that spirit with this process today. Hear now my prayer. Great mystery beyond our knowing. You have no ears to hear, no face to see, yet I know you as much as close as my breath and as vast as the cosmos. Here I am. Our lives are blessed with the bounty of creation. Life truly gives us life. And with regret, I acknowledge our human corruption of many of the gifts of creation. We live between thankfulness and guilt, grace and shame. Wise and noble ancestors and fellow human beings admonish us to give thanks for all that we didn't ourselves create. May we remember. And blessed be the agents and allies of life's ways, dedicated to good science, to good care of our earth, and to the good love of one another and all creation. May it be so, blessed be. Enjoy your snack. The image of light is very significant to the human imagination. Dark rooms, dark lives, dark dreams. The key is to bring light to it in the form of Mr. Edison's invention, or ancient candles, or a good old pine cone in the right ignition. So take this light with you that we have conjured, and the ideas that we do share in our principles and our daily lives, to remember that we are part and parcel of a wonderful mystery and a glorious miracle. Amen.